Patrick Wayne Kearney, also known as the Trash Bag Killer, was a serial killer and necrophile who operated in Southern California between the years of 1962 and 1977. His killing sprees took place during this time period. Let's have a deep look at all about Patrick Wayne Kearney. Before starting the video, subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, and do not forget to like and comment on the video. He committed his atrocities in the United States. Kearney has a well-deserved reputation for his many sexual deviancies, including necrophilia, pedophilia, ephebophilia, and hemophiliac. In some circles, he is called the Trash Bag Killer. Ephebic is one of his favorite things to collect, and he has a lot of it. Before, it was believed that the Freeway Killer was a single serial killer. However, it has been determined that he is one of 3 individuals responsible for the killings. Kearney was the oldest of his 3 brothers, and his family was always supportive and loving of him throughout his childhood. He was the oldest of 3 sons and the first of the 3 to be born on September 24, 1939, in East Los Angeles, California. He held the title of eldest among the 3 men. On the other hand, when he was younger, people picked on him and bullied him due to the fact that he had an unattractive appearance. This took place when he was a young boy at the time of the event. Kearney's thoughts and fantasies about murdering other people began when he was a teenager, and he eventually turned those fantasies into reality. After a brief stay in the state of Texas, he uprooted his life and moved to the state of California, where he was able to secure a position as an engineer with the Hughes Aircraft Company. He had been in Texas for less than a year. During this time, he was absent from the territory comprising the state of California for close to 10 years. Kearney was an accomplished gay pickup artist in his private life, and he was also fluent in Spanish. These skills would later prove helpful to him in the commission of his murders. In his personal life, Kearney was also a fluent Spanish speaker. In addition to this, Kearney had a criminal record that included multiple counts of murder. Following his relocation to Redondo Beach, he became acquainted with a man by the name of David Hill, and over the course of time, the 2 of them began to develop romantic feelings for one another. After he had already established a relationship with David Hill, this event took place. When Hill and Kearney got into an argument, he would leave them both and go for long drives by himself in order to clear his head. Following the confrontation with Hill, this would take place. During these trips, he would pick up male hitchhikers or homosexual men from local gay bars to travel with him in his vehicle as passengers. During these trips, he would pick up male hitchhikers. Whenever Kearney encountered male hitchhikers or homosexual men in gay bars, he would typically pick them up and shoot them with a .2 caliber Derringer. In the vast majority of cases, the target was hit in the temple, which is located slightly above the ear. Most of the victims ultimately perished due to their injuries, which eventually led to their passing. The vast majority of the victims were slain while they were either asleep or preoccupied with something else at the time of their deaths, and both scenarios resulted in their deaths. After he had finished off his victims, he would take their bodies to a remote location where he would engage in necrophilia with them. He would then finish off his victims. After that, he would return the bodies to his house, where he would sodomize those using X-Acto knives. After that was finished, he would dispose of the bodies. After that, he would release the bodies back into the world's general population. After this, they were cut up with hacksaws and subjected to further mutilation before being hacked into pieces. He would occasionally remove the bullets from the heads of the victims as a forensic countermeasure, and then he would dispose of their bodies in canyons, landfills, and along the highways, typically in trash bags. In some cases, he would also remove the bullets from the victims' heads as a forensic countermeasure. This was done on occasion. This was done in an effort to keep a low profile and avoid being discovered. This is because of the reasons stated above. Therefore, people now refer to him by the nickname they gave him back then. Alternately, Kearney would transport the bodies to a region of the desert in which they would be consumed by the native wildlife. Additionally, he would drain the blood of his victims in order to get rid of any odors, and he would sometimes even bait the dismembered body parts in order to reduce the amount of blood and get rid of any fingerprint evidence. This was done in order to hide any traces of his criminal activity. This was done in order to cover up any evidence of his illegal activity that may have been left behind. When Kearney needed to calm his rage or feel more powerful over his victims, he would sometimes beat their bodies. This gave him the feeling of having more control. This made him feel as though he had a greater degree of control. This not only gave him the impression that he was more powerful, but it also gave him the impression that he was in control of his victims. Additionally, some of his victims resembled bullies that he had encountered during his childhood and adolescence. This was yet another reason why he targeted these individuals. Kearney put his younger victims to death in the same manner as his older victims by first smothering them and then dismembering their bodies after they had passed away. This was the same method he used to kill his older victims. His younger victims were not spared either. After they had passed away, they were hacked to pieces. The first person to be killed in a homicide that was officially recorded in Kearney took place in 1962, and the victim was a male who was 19 years old. The homicide was recorded in the official records of the city. Kearney committed murder on the man by shooting him in the head after luring him to a remote location on his motorcycle. After the murder, Kearney engaged in necrophilic acts with the man's body before disposing of it. After the murder, Kearney took the dead man's body and was involved in necrophilia acts with it. This was the first murder that was discovered to have ties to Kearney, and it was the one that was found first. In the years that would follow, he would go on to be responsible for the deaths of a large number of additional victims who had been murdered by him. A few days later, the skeletal remains of a victim who had been murdered by Kearney were discovered, and the investigation revealed that the victim had last been seen in the company of Kearney and Hill. The investigation also revealed that Kearney had been the one who had committed the murder. The investigation also uncovered the fact that Kearney was the individual who had been responsible for the murder. Both individuals were apprehended in El Paso, Texas, after their families were successful in persuading them to turn themselves into authorities rather than continuing their flight themselves. Hill was allowed to go free and was granted permission to leave the country once it was determined that he was not responsible for the crimes he was being investigated. In spite of the fact that Kearney admitted to being responsible for a total of 38 murders, the authorities only charged him with 21 counts of murder. As a direct result of the investigation, the rules now have reason to believe that he may be responsible for additional murders that have not yet been discovered. Kearney made a guilty plea, which allowed him to avoid the possibility of being sentenced to the death penalty and prevented him from being sentenced to receive it. At the moment, he is being held captive within the confines of the California State Prison that is located in San Quentin. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.